those who have lost a loved one can tell you that the funeral is not necessarily the worst of the grieving process. Oftentimes, as a pastor, I've found that it's the day after the funeral. It's once the burial is done, the headstone is set, and the grievers go home, that the loss really begins to set in. The morning after comes, and with it, the hope that everything that you have just gone through over the last few days was just a bad dream. The whole day is filled with painful reminders that life is now somehow different. Something is missing that once brought happiness and joy. For some, sitting in the quiet darkness with the curtains pulled shut feels like the only remedy that might bring rest, might bring comfort, and yet it doesn't. The grief continues to creep in, the tears continue to fall, the heart continues to hurt, and the merciless aftermath of death leaves its mark. If you have ever felt such darkness, you are in good company. Jesus' followers were left reeling from their loss on that Saturday. Jesus was dead. Their teacher, their king, their friend, the one they had hoped would redeem Israel, was gone. And there they sat in a quiet room, grieving, with the heavy stone rolled over the tomb. Adding insult to injury, the Pharisees asked Pilate to seal the stone and set a guard in front of the tomb to prevent a counterfeit resurrection. They had remembered that Jesus said he would raise from the dead, and they wanted to prevent anybody from making that happen. It's over. So what now? At this point, there would have been only two options that made sense to the disciples. Either Jesus wasn't the Christ, or God had somehow made a mistake. What else could there be? The one they had called Messiah and put their hopes in for restoration had been brutally executed in the most publicly humiliating way possible. The Romans did their work well. It's not hard to imagine them saying, let's face it, the redemption we had hoped for in Jesus is not coming. While we, generations later, know what is to come with the dawn of the next day, the disciples could not have even begun to dream that there was more to the story. For the rest of their lives, the disciples would remain awestruck at the sudden transition from grief to joy that was to come on the next day. Soon the light of resurrection would break through the darkness of their grief. The tomb that once stood as a cold memorial to their Lord's and friend's death would be transformed into an eternal symbol of God's victory over death. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. The disciples did not know all that just yet. For now, we leave them in their dark, quiet room. Try to hear their sobs coming in from the corner where Peter sits, thinking about his betrayal. See the uneaten bread on the table as their grief prevents them from eating. Watch the lamplight flicker in the dark as their hopes slowly flicker and extinguish. If only they knew what tomorrow would bring. Tomorrow, things would be different. Tomorrow, grief would turn into joy. Tomorrow, the tomb would be opened. Tomorrow, their dead Messiah will be vindicated, and they will see the beginning of a new age. Friends, some of you have experienced very difficult losses. Some of you may be sitting in dark rooms of your own. The pain of the loss may seem too heavy. The grave of a loved one is cold and covered with grass. The urn is sealed, and you know that there is nothing anyone can say or do to take away the pain. All I can say to you, all I can offer at this moment on this silent Saturday is the simple hope that is given to us in Jesus. Tomorrow comes the resurrection. Tomorrow we celebrate Jesus' victory over death. And remember that there's a future resurrection waiting for all of God's people. Jesus died our death so that we could live his life and so that we could have eternal life with him forever. The grave will not stay closed forever, even if we mourn today. If I may paraphrase an ancient truth as we end such a hope-filled meditation, weeping may tarry for Saturday, but joy comes on Sunday morning. Tomorrow is coming, and with it, resurrection life.